All right, so we are going to continue on with our discussion about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. We finished in class a balanced equation with photosynthesis, and now we're going to go to the bottom of the page. And this is where we're going to talk about cellular respiration. So on the left-hand side, let's go ahead and write that. All right, so in a lot of ways, cellular respiration is almost like the opposite of photosynthesis. Cellular respiration is what all plant and animal cells do, okay? It's what happens in the mitochondria. So again, we're gonna have inputs. We'll put those on the left, and we'll have outputs on the right. And let's talk about what our inputs and outputs are. So cells all need the same thing. They all need oxygen. So if you have a mitochondria in your cell, you need oxygen for that mitochondria. We'll start that out. Oxygen. And all cells also need some sort of energy, and that energy is going to come from glucose. Remember, glucose is the only type of output from photosynthesis that has any calories. Well, those calories are useful for things like animals. So oxygen, that's O2 for our molecular formula. Glucose, our molecular formula there is C6H12O6. All right, so we've got our inputs down. Our outputs are what our cells get rid of as waste. So when you breathe out, you're breathing out a couple things, and that's how our cells actually get rid of waste. They get rid of waste by exhaling. At least that's how animals get rid of waste. So when we exhale carbon dioxide. Add that to our outputs. And believe it or not, we actually also are going to exhale water. We're going to add water over here to our outputs. How do we know that we exhale water? Well, if you've ever been in the cold before and breathed out and seen that it kind of makes something like a cloud, that cloud that you see when you breathe out is actually water. Okay, so carbon dioxide. Molecular formula for that, CO2. You should know that by now. And same thing with water, you should know. Molecular formula is H2O. So if we take this equation and we compare that with our photosynthesis up on top.
Please report to the office again.
Sorry for that interruption. So if you compare that to what we see on top, you should notice that actually the inputs of photosynthesis match the outputs, okay, the outputs, CO2 and water, of cellular respiration. And you should also notice that the molecules that are the outputs for photosynthesis, those are actually our inputs. Those are our inputs in cellular respiration. So that's why I say that these are kind of like flip-flopped of each other. These are like opposites. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is what goes in the middle. Now, in photosynthesis, it's absorbing light. And actually, in cellular respiration, the opposite is happening there as well. So we are going to have some energy here, but this time, instead of being absorbed by the chemical reaction, it is going to be released by the chemical reaction. And that's exactly why cellular respiration is important to animal cells, and actually plant cells as well, is because that is what creates the energy that all cells need in order to live and do their jobs. All right, so down to the ideas down at the bottom, we've got cellular respiration. It reads, cellular respiration releases energy, so it is an what kind of reaction? Well, before it was an endothermic reaction. The opposite, when it releases energy, that is an exothermic reaction. An exothermic reaction releases energy. Energy is stored in the blank molecule. Actually, we didn't talk about that.
Can Ivy Garcia please report to the NPR gate? Again, Ivy Garcia, please report to the NPR gate.
All right, so ATP is actually the name of the molecule. ATP is actually a shortened version. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, but that's kind of a mouthful, and most people just say ATP. ATP is how that energy is stored, and it's used by any cell. So any kinds of cells, plant, animal cells, they all use ATP as their main source of energy. This process happens in plant, and as I was saying before, animal cells. Okay, so we're almost there. We're in the home stretch here. The only thing that you guys need to understand is how to balance this. Well, luckily for us, we actually did the hard work of that earlier, and we balanced this equation in the reverse order. So if we have the same inputs and outputs, but they're just on either side, they're just switched sides, then we know that we're going to still use 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules for the output. And those are going to balance 6 oxygen molecules, 6 oxygen molecules and 1 glucose molecule on the other side for the inputs. All right, if you have followed along, you have now completed this page. You can get it stamped by me at lunch and then turned in, and you will be ready to go. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for following along, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.